Welcome to the Predictable Revenue Podcast, where sales leaders teach you what's working for them so you can build it yourself. Feeling ready to kick your sales into high gear? We're here to help. Check out our sales coaching and consulting services at predictablerevenue.com. Welcome back to the Predictable Revenue Podcast. I'm your host, Collin Stewart. Today, I'm joined by Jeremy Painkin. He's the SVP at Community Brands. We're going to talk forecast and all the nitty-gritty details of what goes into one, how to make your organization predictable, how to run one, and what are some of the key pieces. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Hey, Collin, I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Looking forward to this one for a while. And it's one of the things that everybody knows what a forecast is, but from the outside, even if you've been in sales, knowing exactly what goes into a sales forecast from, the executive level, the director level, the manager level, and the rep level, if you've never worked in an organization that had that level of, like, a really strong level of process and rigor, these forecast calls can be kind of the wild, wild west. So I'm really excited to get in and learn from you and how you're running forecast over at Community Brands.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's definitely a good word you use when you say rigor. I think it's a word that people either love or they hate. And some people go, "Ugh, he said the R word." Some people are like, hey, I really want to get behind that process. I think it's definitely it sparks a lot of thoughts in my brain when you say the word rigor.
I've always struggled to find the right word for it, because to me, there's a couple of pieces that we can get into, but I think as a salesperson, it's one thing to learn the process. It's another to have somebody test you on it. And so part of the forecast process, part of the pipe review, deal review is a word that I try and avoid, because I don't like the word, is enforcement, right? You're trying to enforce the process or reinforce the process. You're trying to reteach, but yeah, there's no right way to say it, but it's testing people. It's making sure that they are following the definitions that we've said, hey, this is what the definition is for this stage. This is the definition of MEDDIC. This is the definition of how you use metric. If you don't test people on it, they can drift, and the process drifts, and suddenly you're using MEDDIC, but really you're only using like med.
Yeah, no, it's, and we've all been a part of those calls, right? You've been a part of the ones that are super rigorous or super rigor or have a lot of process behind them. And, I remember being a rep a long time ago when MEDDIC was like the cool thing, the new cool thing to do. And you'd watch people get just blasted and, cry in tears because they're like, they didn't know the entrance-exit criteria. They didn't know what their metrics were. They didn't know their timeline, their paper process, none of it. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to work in that environment, especially now. I think, we've evolved as people and we've evolved as businesses. So, getting, for lack of a better word, punched verbally in the face at every meeting, people aren't going to be like, man, I can't wait to go to Jeremy's meeting. It's so much fun. Like, he basically makes me cry. Like, no one wants that. But what you can do in those meetings is, like you said, Collin, is enforce those pieces. And, when you don't have that, when you're missing a letter, when you're missing a process, when your entrance and exit criteria has X and Y, but not Z, great. Let's call that out. Hey, you're missing this. You're in the wrong stage. Put it back. When you get this, move it across. And you keep driving those points home and getting that buy-in continually. And there's plenty of times where people hold it back because they don't want to move it forward because it doesn't feel right for them. But you can then say, hey, that's ready to go. Like, you can move it up in the next stage, and you can do those same things and kind of, enforce as you use that process along the way. And I think that's an important part of forecasting. It is the process piece.
100%. It's teaching, it's testing to make sure that what you have taught has been learned and they are putting it into practice.
Yeah, agreed. And forecasting for me is a couple of things. Forecasting for me at my level is predictability. And predictability for me is, what can I expect to come in this month? What can I expect to come in this quarter? What can I expect to come in, this half, this year? We've all heard the saying, a day doesn't make a week doesn't make a month doesn't make, we've all heard that, right? But at my level and where I sit in the organization is predictability. So, I'm obviously held to growth numbers. I'm held to different revenue metrics outside of that, right? Because if you lose money, if you lose a deal or a business churns, you have to make that up somewhere. And that's usually in top line bookings. But it's predictability. It's being able to communicate up to the CEO, up to the board, up to those, hey, where is it going to be? And I take it very seriously, and I almost gamify it for myself, and as do my leaders. My buy-in from my leaders is key in this. And we can definitely dig deeper into that. But, when you look across SaaS markets right now, or most markets, forecast predictability is give or take 15%. That's a massive swing to a board. 15% is like no longer a rounding error. That's like people get fired. Our goal is 1%. And we built a process that absolutely allows us to do that predictably. Now, the downside of that is this. Let's say the number is $1 million. Now you're forecasting 300,000. That's not a fun conversation to have either. Because, right, you're not getting to the bookings number, whatever the goal was set. You can look at that two ways. You can look at it as a challenge, like that sucks. I would rather be right and predictable than overshoot the number and then have to call it down 60%. And I've seen it both ways. I've been in organizations, I've worked in organizations that kind of have that swing. But what I've learned is predictability is stability. And the more predictable, the more stable, the more profitable. These are kind of the mantras that I work with, and my team is really a part of. And the other thing is forecasting is a team sport. If anybody tells you it's a CRO's job or it's the SVP's job, or that's bullshit. It's everybody's job. As a rep, when I was a rep, I forecasted differently. I want to buy a car. I want to get a pool. I want to buy and go on vacation. I want to whatever that thing was. I would then back into my number and figure out what that number was, and I would forecast accurately how I'm going to make the commissions needed to get where I'm going. Right? At the middle level, you want to see that. You want to see it a little bit differently. You start to evolve a little bit. Well, now I've got 8 or 10 people or whatever the number is. What do I'm only getting us to my percentages have changed now. You start backing into that forecastability as well, but it's all usually self-serving. Once you get to a senior leadership position, the thing you're serving is the business. And I would rather serve on a platter, predictable revenue, high, low, whatever it is, and take my licks and be honest with what's going to happen, especially as you scale and grow, than to be like, Collin, I'm going to do $1.5 million. Just kidding. It's the 30th of the month. I did 600,000. It's a massive swing for a business, and that's what gets people fired.
Totally.
So forecasting is something that I've taken very seriously, and I've learned from different groups I've been in and things like that. I've learned from a lot of other people and continue to do so. But, that's what forecasting means to me. It's strictly around predictability.
Totally. I mean, I on the other side of it now, I started my life as a rep. I spent time managing salespeople, and now I both manage salespeople and I work on our finance, work with our finance team. And a 60% miss means we're chopping things out of the budget, right? This is why the predictability is so important. And the context is going to vary if you're a venture backed or if you're a bootstrap company. If you're big, if you're small, if you're a small company, missing by a deal means a whole hell of a lot. If you're forecasting $1 million a month, missing by a deal, a 30K deal, it still sucks to miss, but it's significantly less of an impact than missing by 15% of your goal. And so it's interesting to see kind of how things are tied in and why the other side of why that predictability is so important.
Yeah, no, I agree. But let's use your example just that you came up with. So at a 60% miss, as a CEO, you immediately go, I've got to get that money from somewhere else. And it does matter whether you're bootstrapped, VC, PE, I get all those different pieces, what seed you're in, what stage you're in an organization. I don't care if you're a Fortune 500. If you take a 60% miss, at some point, there's nothing left to cut but people, right? So I also say that, predictability is important because it protects your people, and you will be successful without successful people who are willing to be there with you. And so there's a buy-in to that, right? I mean, I've always said, my most important job that I have in my role is to make sure that everybody that works for me is able to take care of their family and do the things that they do. I'm not a guy that believes in work is your family. That's not really, I think we're a team, and I've got to take care of my team and make sure they can take care of their families or their responsibilities. But again, all that comes back to predictability. I mean, if I had to get on the phone with you and say, Collin, I missed by 60%, you're not going to high five me. You're not going to be like, man, great job. Only 60? Awesome. Could have been 80. You're going to be like, hey, we have to figure out where this money's going to come from. Are we cutting software? Are we cutting automations? Are we cutting people? Are we cutting what? Someone's got to go. I got to make up 60. Okay. And so I think when you really dig deep into what forecasting is and the effects of forecasting, that's how granular it gets.
Yeah. I used to think, it's, boss wants 100% quota or attainment because they're greedy and the owners just want it to be profitable and to buy another boat and sailboat or this or that. And it's like, yeah, that's, partly true. But I think the biggest piece is like, you got to keep the business alive. You got to keep people employed, and you've got to keep, consistent gainful employment for everybody. And predictability in the forecast and the delivery is the most important part there. And so it's really about kind of balancing, because if you misbalance, you miss quota by 60%, fine if one rep does it. If all of your reps do it, wow, now the business is in trouble, because it's very easy. It's not like most companies are walking around with 80%, operating margins, right? You miss by 60%, you're cutting deep.
Deep. You're down, you're cutting bone, you're cutting arms off at that point. Mm-hmm. And just like you said, I remember being, even when I was a rep, like, God, why do I constantly have to go to these meetings just so that, John can make more money? Like what gives, dude? Like I'm busting my ass here. I'm making things happen, and we're making good deals, and we're making business. But, you start to look as you get higher in the organization. But again, even when I was a rep, it was all about what's in it for me. And I think that as you continue to forecast and you continue to build these processes and build this culture, because it's all about a culture too, right? It's got to be a culture of we win together, we lose together. Even if you're an individual contributor, they're still part of a larger organization. That all comes with a massive amount of buy-in. And that to me is a foundational piece of predictable forecast.
100%. And I want to get to buy-in in a second. Can you give me just for those that are listening that may not have had been in a large sales organization, can you talk to me about the different roles involved in the forecast? Obviously, there's the reps, there's the leadership, managers. Talk to me about kind of who's involved, what's their role responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it all starts at the rep level. And, in my organization, I have reps, I have hunters, I have farmers, I have kind of some enterprise reps, there's kind of a mixed bag. All with different levels of quota, all with different levels of kind of sales cycles and close rates and things of that nature. Above them is a manager. The role of the manager is to kind of, back in the day, we used to call it step on the number. Collin gives me 100, I step on it and make it 80. Then my boss steps on it and makes it 70. Then his boss steps on it and makes it 60. We all heard of like the step on the number. I don't think that's predictable. I think that's a bullshit way of playing it safe. But I also think that, the manager's job is to make sure the deal is real. The manager should be the closest person to the deal outside of that rep. The manager should understand, is it multi-threaded? The manager should understand where the risk is. That manager should understand, are we going to get down to the wire and have to do anything outside of the normal, T's and C's, and any kind of concessions? I should pick up the phone and call that manager right now and get that information. And the managers that I have, especially, one of my managers, who hopefully will listen to this, she's fantastic. I can call her right now and ask about any deal any deal in her patch, and she can tell me exactly what I just said. And likely she will tell me things I don't even ask, because she's done this enough with me and she knows what I'm looking for, and she knows where her team is deficient. Some sellers are really strong at a close. Some sellers aren't very good at getting it multi-threaded. Some sellers are really good at getting the certain processes. She knows that about her team. That manager's got to be dialed in and closest to the deal. So then we zoom out, right? So then we get to the director level. When you get to the director level, they're one step off that deal now, right? So they may not be as close. They probably start to look at it. I know that for my director, she looks at it at a dollar amount. She'll start to look at some of the higher dollar amounts first. She'll start to work her way back down. And she doesn't really mess anything over, if it's below about 20K, it doesn't really move the needle enough to make a difference. But her questions are going to change now. So instead of being down in the deal level, she's looking at it holistically at a team level. So the team level is X. What is the close rate against the team? What do I need? How, am I over leveraged, under leveraged? But now there's a tiny little shift that happens at the director level. How much pipeline do I have to cover? Meaning, if I were to drop any of these deals, what's behind it? And let's call it a best case, and we'll get into that I can come across. So she's not in the deal level anymore. She's looking at the numbers level, going, okay, if this moves, can this go here? It starts to become that building block game. And they're both maniacal maniacs, but they do it in a way where people feel supported. Both of those people will get on an airplane and go meet with a rep at any location at any time at a moment's notice. Both of those people will join a rep on a call. Both of those people will send emails and do change of voice and do whatever it's going to take to make that happen. And I think that, again, goes back to that buying piece that we'll talk on. So we zoom out again, right? So we get to the VP level. Now it's all about numbers. Where are we at on coverage? What's our percentage coverage? Now we're looking at how much pipeline are we generating, because we're looking 90 days out on a rolling 90. So now how much pipeline are we generating, right? Because the pipeline I'm generating today, I should get at the end of this next 90 days based on different sales cycles. So they're looking at it even further, kind of at a more, think of it as a cash flow type of environment that they're looking for. And then at the SVP level, I look at it as, what's our growth year over year? What are we growing? What products are growing? Are we missing different things? What trends am I seeing? Maybe we're doing a promotion on we have a number of products. We're using a promotion on one of our products, and I see a different product that's actually spiking. My first question is going to be, why? Can I influence this month right now by switching over to product X instead of Y? I start to look at greater close rates. Do different products close faster than others? Do different products pair with other products? Can I do multi-products at a single sale? That's what I start looking at. And then I start looking against the year. Let's say you have a bad month. I don't get to just close my eyes and go, okay, now I'm in a new month. I have to now figure out from my seat how I'm going to make up last month into this quarter or this month or this week or whatever it is. So when I look at it, it's strictly around the numbers. But because I have people that are so deep in the deal and so maniacal about what's happening, so when we do these, and I have a stand-up with them every day, and it's 15 minutes, it's very fast, it's extremely focused. But they know I can tell them on the call, hey, we need 290 this week. Here's why. And they'll do it. Which reminds me of a story. I go to a lot of events, especially when there's, high level execs or different high leverage clients that are there. I go and, put on a nice clothing and, get out of my sweatpants or whatever it may be and actually go out in public with my teeth brushed. We go out to this meeting and it's me and two reps, and, one rep is a farmer, one rep is a hunter. So I've kind of got the best of both. End of the month, right? Last place that an SVP wants to be end of the month is not in front of his computers. I mean, I have 5 screens right here. So this is my little,
it's a battle station.
Yeah, it's NASA basically. I mean, we do this,
yeah.
Pretty sure. So we're there and a deal falls out. And I'm like, oh man, what are we going to do? I walk in there, I sit behind the booth, and I said, okay, ladies, let's open our computers. I gotta find $75K. Without even, they both open their computers up. What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? They know what I'm going to ask. They know what's going to be. But they are so bought into the forecast because I tell them the number. I tell them what we're trying to hit. I tell them where we're at. I'm very transparent with it. It's not this smoke and mirror shadow government. Like, your people don't know what they're going for if you don't tell them. So they know all that. They know how much, like a 75K swing is 150K for me because I got to cover that 75 now and then 575 more. So, we went through it, and both of them, I think one of them brought me one deal, one of them brought me 2 deals, closed same day. But if you ask them about it, and I was like, hey, whatever it takes, I'll get on the phone, I'll do whatever you need. Like, use me, I'm here. It's exciting. It's fun to be around that. It's like, reminds me back in the day being in the pit. But to see that and to see that excitement build, but the other part of that is it goes to show you that they are bought in to the culture and they are bought into the same number that I'm bought into, because they know what that means. Even if both of those reps had already hit their monthly quota, both of them. So they could have just, not saying I didn't sandbag back in the day, but
no, never
never did that. I was always very, very accurate. But they could have sandbagged, right? They could have been like, hey, not my problem, man. Call somebody else. There's there's people that haven't hit it yet this month. Go find them. Didn't do that. Jumped right on it. And that goes back to that piece of like buy-in. So when the SVP comes down, and I'm not a title guy, I hate even saying that, but when I come down, and I'm like in an environment with them, and we're literally sitting in crappy event chairs in a little like triangle, like our knees were basically touching with all our computers up, being like, okay, what can we do? Okay, I can do that. I can fix this. Okay, what do you need over there? What do you need over there? That just goes to show you they're bought into the predictability. They're bought into the performance of the business. They're bought into making sure that they deliver, even if it doesn't affect them. they'd already hit their number for the month. They're bought into the broader picture, which I think in the environment that we're at today with these hybrid environments, you're going to win or lose as a team. You can no longer ride a one-horse pony to the end anymore.
Talk to me about buy-in. It sounds like it is kind of the critical thread that is pulling all of this together. How do you get buy-in? Where does that start?
Buy-in starts with your leaders. When I come to an organization, I look at entrance and exit criteria, and I look at if they're using Bant or Medic or, Rainbow Bright or, Candyland, whatever their thing is. I look at it and I'll ask the question, who came up with this? Sometimes they have an answer. Most of the time they don't. Most of the time they hired a consultant or had somebody come in and that's what they just implemented because it was quick and easy. And it may have worked at startup. It may not work at scale up. It may not work at scale, and it may not work as you grow. And so I sit down with my leaders, we'll spend some time together, especially, you want to hear what they have to say. So you sit them in a room. What works, what doesn't, right? Their voice is no different than yours. In fact, their voice should be louder than yours. What works, what doesn't? We talk about it. Great. Where are the gaps? We talk about it. Awesome. If we could change anything today, how do you want to do it? And then just shut up and sit there and listen. They're closer to it and they know better. It does two things. It allows you to direct the conversation to go, you said that this isn't working because this exit criteria is not realistic. It should actually be over here. Change it. But now if you change it, move it over here, what is this exit criteria? Make it. So you start to work with them and get that buy-in with them, and you work with them together. You don't beat them up. When I do my stand-ups for the first few weeks, they might miss an M, they might miss an E, they might miss a P, they might. And Medic evolves depending on the organization you're in. Like all the letters don't always make sense. I love when they're like, well, I use all the letters. Well, maybe that works in your organization. It doesn't work in mine. But you start to say like, hey, you notice you're not missing, you don't have the paper process here. Do you have an executive sponsor there? You don't have a metric. You have like I don't even know what that is. It's some weird number they gave you, but it's not against anything. So I get you got a number there, but I don't see what it's metrics against. I don't see what they're doing with it. But what you're doing is you're showing them how to then do the same thing to their people. And then when I do a forecast call, I get to observe them doing it back to their people in front of me. So it's kind of that show, share, observe piece. So that's how I start to get buy-in there. Once they're bought in and they're jazzed up, they can start to do the same thing with their team. So it's not a, there's a saying in sales, it's carrot or stick. And I don't think that it's either in this setting. I think that it's just process. You're not hitting them with it. You're not enticing them with it. You're just putting them in their lanes and letting them drive. Don't hit this wall. Don't hit that wall. And you let the leaders go down and do the same thing that you just did with them, with their people. Hey, we're changing some exit criteria, and doesn't it make more sense if it goes like this? And then shut up and listen. Because most of the time the rep's going to go, oh yeah, that does make sense. You know what we didn't think about? What about this? And leaders are going to come back to me and go, hey, I just talked to Hank and he said, you know what? What if we added this one little piece in it? And if you look at the data, it actually shows it's going to be more great. Let's do it. But once it's set, it's set. You can't deviate from it. But once you have that buy-in, they don't want to deviate from it because they begin to understand it. It almost becomes second nature to them. And the more comfortable they are coming to your calls, the more comfortable they are being a part of your cadence, the more comfortable they are feeling supported in what they're doing and not getting that stick all the time, the more predictable your revenue is, because now they're not afraid. They're not going to put garbage in there so you don't yell at them. They're going to put real things in there because they're bought in the process. If it's all stick, I've been that rep. It's all stick. Oh, here's $1 million. Don't talk to me. Leave me alone. Oh, is it a good deal, Jeremy? Great deal. Going to definitely close sometime between now and 2037, but it's definitely a real deal. Trust me, it's going to be good. But now there's accountability. You're accountable to your deals. Your team on my calls can see your deals. They can see what you're closing. They can see you're accountable to your deals. But if they're not afraid to put things in there and they're afraid to really focus on what's real instead of trying to make shit up, that is a huge part of being predictable revenue, because now you're not doing that. Well, I gave it to Collin and Collin stepped on a 10%, and then Collin gave it to Christy and Christy stepped on a 10%. But now, Christy gave it to Darian, and Darian said on a 20%. So now I got a 40% swing on what?
Everybody's hedging.
Everybody's hedging, but I just don't think that. I think there's a way to be, you know, and we hedge, and I'd love to show this kind of sheet that we use because we do hedge as well, but we hedge open, and we know what the predictability is, and we know what the assumptions are, and the assumptions don't change. Just like the entrance detection criteria doesn't change. Just like the forecast calls have the same flow, have the same, you know, it's all the same. But to me, you know, you use the word rigor, and you know, I know you and I have talked about this a number of times, but to me, it's just process. It's just a concrete process.
And I'd love to talk about the process and maybe the definitions, because I'm thinking back to the conference story, and like I have been in calls like this, both as a rep and as a leader. In a great organization, it's a high bandwidth conversation. The rep knows what you're looking for. You don't have to ask the questions. You don't have to this or that. If you don't have shared definitions or shared process, it takes that same conversation takes 24 hours instead of 24 minutes. And so I'd love to talk about what are the shared definitions and the process first, and then we can get into like, what does the cadence look like?
Yeah. So for us, there's definitions, or, you know, we've got commit, we've got best case, we've got kind of pipeline and discover. Let's leave pipeline out. Pipeline's pretty self-explanatory. It is what it is. It's kind of generic. When you're in a discover phase, for me, it's telling me a couple of things. You've identified a problem, you've identified a product, and you've identified an urgency to solve said problem with said solution. You're discovering, you're digging into it. There's more to it, but let's just go high level. You're discovering, you're digging into it. When you move that across to propose, now we know the problem, we know we're solving, we know we've multi-threaded, because in our business, if we're not multi-threaded, it could throw us out a week or two. If we, you know, and I think in any business right now, the more people you have in your process, the more successful you're going to be. The next thing that we have is you have shared pricing with them, because nothing pisses me off more than to get a deal all the way through. And you're like, I'm going to send them the contract. Okay. Have they seen pricing? No, I'm just going to send it to them. They're going to love it. So you're not going to explain it to them. They have no idea what the fuck they're looking at. And, you know, it's just not going to work. It doesn't work for them, and it doesn't make anything happen. Have you shared pricing with them? Have you discussed what that means? Have you shared implementation with them? Have you discussed what that means? Have you shared the urgency that they have and backed them into what they said from a timeline to create and continue to drive home the urgency that they provided you with? That's what I want to see and propose, because you are proposing to them the solution that you have to offer to their problem to meet their timeline with the people that you've included in the deal. The other part that I want to see and propose is, do you know the paper process? Is there a board approval? Is there a stop it legal? Is there any kind of authority that we're not aware of? You know, hey, I can only write a check for, you know, 100,000. Okay, who can write a check for 200,000? Who is that person? Have we met that person? Have we helped raise that person up? Those are the things that I want to see when I get into propose. And then it can slide either way, right? So you got best case and you've got commit. The only difference for me on best case and commit at a high level is you've taken a verbal versus, you know, you're either missing a verbal or you're missing a person. You know, you got two people, you want a third. And what I also say is the best in class for me at the rep level are covering their deals one for one. 50K in commit, 50K in best case, 100K in commit, 100K in best case. It doesn't always work out that way. I mean, we just know that's the environment that we're in. But I want the rep to look at it from, if I lose this commit, am I still going to make my number here? And what I don't want to see is them regress. So if they regress in my calls, we have a pretty, so you hit the entrance and exit criteria. Why are you going backwards? But again, we go to commit and best case, and then, you know, we just go to close one at that point, based on how it goes. And close one is just exactly what it sounds like. It's just an executed operating order form.
Right on. I want to double click on regress there. When you say regress, are you talking about a deal moving back in the pipeline, or are you talking about a rep?
Okay. No, moving back. So the deal moves back. Two things are frustrating, especially when you're trying to be predictable. Obviously pushing forwards, right? So it's a January deal, it's a February deal, it's a March deal. Like, at some point, is it a deal? Like, I think that's a question that you really need to have. Like, is it a deal? You might have all the medics that you want in there, but is it a deal? Are they actually going to buy? And sometimes they're just not going to buy. And I think a good seller gets to that no or that yes as fast as possible. But if a deal slides back, my first question to the rep is, what happened? And, what I heard at the beginning when I first got here is, oh, I didn't know they had to meet with the board. Oh, I didn't know they had to talk to, the CFO. Okay. Well, let's talk about that. So what are the deals that are on here that people haven't talked to the board? And they'll raise their hands. How many people on these got these deals right here that haven't talked to the CFO? They'll raise their hands. So if John's having that problem, do we think anybody else is going to have that problem? How do we overcome it? Do you want to? So in that exact experience, as a real deal, I was a change of voice. I said, let me send an email. I'll put you on it. I always copy the reps. I'll put you on it. Let me talk through it and see if I can get to the CFO. They did take a meeting with us. I actually went with that rep on site, and was able to kind of help bring it back. It pushed the deal about 28 days, but we got it. But he went all the way to the end, Now, there's two arguments. His argument would be like, they never told me. My argument is, you never asked.
I mean, it's your job to, the job of the rep. Yeah.
But I can tell you right now that he will never come to a call without that knowledge again. But again, it's not stick. It's a teaching moment. How many of you, when you look around the room and you look at all your counterparts, you got 4 or 5 people raising their hand. You're not the only one that did it. Learn from it. Move on from it. If you do it twice, we got a problem. 3 times, we got a real problem. But yeah, it's your job as the rep to know that. You should be constantly inquisitive. Is there anything else that I'm missing? I've heard you mention Susan. Who's Susan? What does Susan do? Can Susan sign? Oh, okay. Susan works for Jimmy. Okay. What does Jimmy do? Like, it's that constant, building out that hierarchy. And what I think it makes it hard right now is not a lot of people are back in the office. And if they are, it's hybrid. It's not full time. So you can no longer just show up at the office and fumble your way around and hope that you can find people. I hope I'm not the only one that tried to get in offices as a delivery guy, and just find out who is who. May or may not have been thrown out of an office many years ago. But you can't do that anymore. So now it's going to have to be through questioning. It's going to have to be through joint trust. It's going to have to be through building a rapport like this on the screen.
Talk to me about change of voice. That's another thing that I've heard you say a couple times, and I think I've got an idea of what it was, but for maybe anybody who hasn't heard this before.
Yeah, so I think in a deal, sometimes it becomes almost like white noise. Collin emailed me. Collin called me. Collin emailed me. Collin sent me a LinkedIn. Collin sent me a video. Collin emailed me. Collin called. It becomes white noise. I get emails constantly from the same person over and over and over and over and over again, and they'll video email me, and they'll voice text or whatever the thing is at the time, and they'll do those things, and eventually it becomes white noise. You get lost. You're just loud. You're just noisy. Change of voice for me is, and there's a steps in it. There's kind of a process in the way that I found to be successful. If I'm the first change of voice, there's nowhere else to go. If they don't respond to me, I mean, yeah, the CEO might send an email. I'm sure you gladly would do that. But they don't respond to him. Then what? You're stuck. So we started like at the first level, that first line manager, get that change of voice. Hey, I heard you were working with Callie. Things were going really well. Hey, I know that you haven't responded to Callie. I just want to reach out and make sure everything's going okay. Not selling. You're not telling them where's my money. You're not telling them where's my deal. You're just saying, hey, how can I help you, and how can I do things with you in order to get you where you need to be? And usually, most of the time, they respond. If they don't respond, I usually take it back to the rep and let the rep try it a couple more times, and then I go to the next level. More times than not, they respond before they get to me. However, if it's a C-level executive, I will be the first person to change a voice. And I try to go title to title, and I try to match tone to tone. And we've been very successful in getting a lot of deals resurrected that way. We've been successful in closing a lot of deals that way. And I think part of that is also knowing your personas and knowing your ICP. So it's even a deeper dive that's not for this call, but change of voice, I think, is really key, especially in this selling environment, is just changing it up. And that's part of you win as a team.
Love it. I really appreciate that. That's something that works, but it's not necessarily obvious. You feel like you're coming in as a manager or as a leader, you feel like you're coming in over top of the rep and you might undermine them. But if you're doing this to support. And so it's not coming in to sell, you're coming in to say, hey, is anything wrong, anything we can do to support you here?
And I do the same thing, as a leader. I do win-loss calls all the time. I lose a deal, if they'll talk to me, I will 1,000% get on the phone with them. Win deal, same thing. For me, it's what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How can we improve this rep? How can we improve our process? How can we improve our product? How can we improve? And if we're losing, why did we lose? Did we lose because of the rep? Did we lose because of the product? Did we lose the pricing? What was it? But again, I think it's that constant level of improvement. But change of voice, if you come from a support level, you're not selling them. Like that's the key ingredient to that. You're not selling them. But back to what we said earlier, buy-in. How bought in you think the reps are if they know for sure every one of their leaders will jump on and get in the trench with them?
Huge.
It's massive. It's just, it's where you got to be today in order to drive predictable revenue, but in order to drive productivity.
Love it. One more detour and then we'll get to the cadence. Talk to me about win-loss analysis. When you're doing these, when you lose a deal, you said 1,000% you get on. So do you do this to every deal and just kind of reach out to them? Is this your role? Is this your manager role, the rep role? How does that work?
Any deal that we lose, I do everything in my power to speak to them personally. I don't put it on the managers. I don't put it on the directors. I don't put it on the rep. I put it on myself. There are times I have to get the rep to get me the call because they just won't give me the call. And again, I get on and just say, hey, I'm not here to sell you. I'm not here to convince you otherwise. I just want to know why. I want to help improve. I want to help just get better. No one says no. Do they always give you like earth-shattering information? No. But a lot of times you meet them where they are. They'll be very honest with you and tell you where you can improve and where you can do things. And I keep a document of it and I look at trends. Are we losing for the same reason at the same type of person? Are we losing, are we losing at one ICP? Are we losing at one price point? Are we losing at one set of, prospects? And let's trend that. Let's see how we can improve it. But yeah, I get on them personally. I don't put on anybody else. Same thing with win calls. Now, I don't do wins for everybody. I do wins over a certain threshold, which is usually 6 figures. I reach out and call them and thank them for their business. I've got a president who actually handwrites them notes, handwritten. I've learned quite a bit from kind of his approach. But he handwrites them notes. I will pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, thanks so much. Really appreciate you, doing business with us. Here's my personal cell phone. Here's my contact information. Whatever I can do to help you through this process at any time, call me. Have there been times hiccups have come up along the way to call me directly? Absolutely. But that's what I'm offering. And I tell them like, hey, if you got a problem, call me and I'll fix it. And, 10 out of 10 times I've been fortunate enough to be able to get in and fix those things. That does 2 things for me. It gives me a great reference story and a great referral. It also builds up further trust. These people move companies all the time. I want to be the first person they call when they get there. And if I know why I lost the first time or why I won the first time, I can only continue to process that even further, which is just, again, another revenue source, almost like a partnership play.
It's almost like you moved out of the sales role, but you're not quite out of the sales role.
Sometimes you got to be a little Trojan horse, Collin. You got to like sneak around and just, they pull the wooden horse up at the front. You got to come out the belly and they don't even see you coming.
I love that. I want to move into, I appreciate the detours. Let's talk about your forecasting cadence. I know you've got a couple of calls. Tell me what goes into putting these calls, or tell me what goes into these calls.
Into the cadence calls. The cadence calls for me, so we forecast every Monday. I'm sure people are going to go when they listen to this, but we forecast every Monday. In case people don't know, we can hear you on podcasts. It goes both ways. It tells Collin everything. We forecast every Monday, and part of the forecast is, hey, how do we further improve our accuracy? So when we look at Mondays is more of, hey, where you at? And so I'm going to get into what happens at the end of the week because it's going to make more sense here. We go through the entire forecast. There is no cutoff. We don't care. It can be $1. We look at every single deal. I do with the leaders and myself. We do it for a little over an hour. It is relatively rapid fire following the medic predictions. It is relatively fast paced, but collaborative. There's plenty of times on that call where somebody will say, I'm having a problem with, does the product do this? Is we doing a workaround for that? I got kind of my people that I'll call on, but I'm not calling on a leader. I'm calling on a rep. I'm raising the rep up, giving them the opportunity to be seen by their people. It makes it a more collaborative environment. Again, less stick, a little bit of carrot. But it's fast. I mean, it is rapid fire. I mean, I've got people on the call that joke. They'll be like, this is my favorite call of the week because they know it's fast. Have your stuff together. Make sure your notes are in. Make sure, I'm going to look at close dates. If everybody's got the same end of the month, that's garbage. Oh, every one of your deals is going to close just at the last day of the month? Oh, that is fantastic. How do you know? Well, you don't. So why don't you go back and figure out what the actual dates are and correct that, and then hold yourself accountable to closing it on the 16th or the 15th or the 12th or whatever it is, and stop. That's lazy to me. So that's kind of Monday. Now with Monday comes a lot of different pieces. Are we doing a change of voice? Are we doing some kind of incentive? We use Postal to send out different incentive pieces, and we found great success with it. Are we doing a Postal? Am I sending a card? Is the president writing a card? We all get jobs in that, myself included. Calls, emails, cards, whatever it is. It's just part of the plan. That happens. We wrap up. Between that call, in the front of it, all the reps are doing one-on-ones. In the back of it, all the reps are doing one-on-ones. So there's that second part of reinforcement. Tuesdays, again, I stand up with the leaders. Hey, where are we at? Did anything move yesterday? Did it not? Or, we talk about, we look at quota attainment. We look at, pipeline versus quota. We look at a lot of different things for the month, especially the beginning of the month. And in the middle of the month, at the end of the month, we kind of pick it up again. But we look at kind of where they're at. Then we jump into our key deal call. So our key deal call happens on Thursdays. Again, it's an hour and a half call. We cover everything $10,000 and above. Some of our business is very transactional. Some of our business is very enterprise. So it kind of catches everything. And in that call, it is truly what it means. Those are key deals to hitting the month, hitting the quarter. What are we doing to change them? They're a little bit more intense and they're a lot more rigorous. And I say that for this reason. In the forecast call, I'm looking at month and maybe 15 days out, call it a 45 day. In key deal, I'm going to look at a 90 day. And I'm going to obviously spend the majority of my time in month. Then I'm going to go into the next month, and then I'm going to go into the rolling 90. I'll also start talking about pipeline in that call. I'll start pointing out gaps in that call because we'll see it we have a kind of a readout. I'll point out gaps on that call. But then I challenge every rep on that call. Okay, so we've looked at, I just did one. I just have the thing right here. Right before this call, I had it. I write down a number of deals that I see in future months, and I ask every one of those reps, and they will meet with me again today. What are we going to do to get into the month? What do you need from the business? What do you need from Jeremy? What do you need in order to make that make sense this month? So that's the second part of that call. And then Fridays, we do constant enablement and constant stand-ups against this. So they're doing stand-ups with their managers. We do an all hands every other Friday. One Friday's enablement. One Friday we do a business update. So we're constantly, A, they constantly know the number. B, they constantly are getting, upskilled and where we're seeing different trends and things of that nature. But most importantly, out of all what we just talked about, they're being held accountable from the start of the week to the end of the week, to the start of the week to the end of the week. Because on Fridays, they're going to get given tasks that they need to complete. So when I roll around to Monday to the forecast call, I should see and hear from them that these things have happened and this deal is continuing to progress. If I don't see that, I key into why I'm not seeing that. Is it like, have I lost the rep's confidence? Is the rep, or is the deal trash? And we kind of talked through that. But again, I laugh in my head. All I hear is you saying rigor over and over again. And again, to me, it's just a process. It's just a process that the team has bought into to win as a team.
Totally. To me, I think a process is something you write into a spreadsheet, and then it's the actions of the entire team that bring it alive. So whatever words we want to use, it's got to be one and the other. Because I've worked for organizations and I've seen teams where, oh yeah, we got a process. I'm like, show me. And the rep opens up their desk drawer and they pull out this binder and they dust the dust off. They're like, this is the process. And it's some deck that they were handed 4 years ago when they started. This is the process. I'm like, this isn't the process. This is a slide deck, right? It's like what you're actually doing. That's the process. And so I think there's like the mapping out, there's the document version, and then there's the things that we do to bring it alive and keep it alive and prevent it from drifting.
Yeah, no, I think, you know what, let me do this. We use that process. So this is kind of the process that we use. And so this is put together by my leaders. I have to give them a massive shout out. I could not do what I do without really great leadership that are really part of the team. So as you can kind of see, go ahead.
And just before you jump in, for anybody who's listening, I'm going to throw a link to a screenshot in the show notes here so you can get a sense for it. But basically what we're looking at is Jeremy's forecasting spreadsheet, and it's got kind of open pipeline, how forecast to target, deals we could pull forward, then a list of all the deals, their statuses, name, etc. So just given the kind of visuals, but check your show notes. We'll throw a screenshot in there for you. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I'm happy. Follow me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to have a conversation and kind of, I'm sure I can learn something from other people on this podcast as well. So one of the things you're first going to notice is we're very clear what the target is. We're clear what our attainment is, and we're clear where the forecast is. Something to call out here, right? Like there's a 261K hole. Mm-hmm. I can promise you that I can call every rep right now that's a part of our team, and they can tell you that number. I promise. We also talk about assumptions. Obviously, the closed one and closed one pending that we just talked about are committed deals. Obviously, I would call those at 100%. When that deal is committed, right? That green deal I was telling you about, that commit deal, it's still not signed, right? It's got a verbal, there's an order form out, whatever it may be. They sent you a nice email telling you how great your presentation was and they're going to sign it on Friday, whatever that thing is, right? But it's not signed. So if you notice, there's a 20% step on this. Okay. As we move down,
I see.
As we move down to our best case here, and I can zoom in on this if it helps. As we come down on here in our best case, look, it's stepped down again. Now it's 60%, right? Because likely your best case is missing some pretty substantial pieces of the puzzle. So, you might not be multi-threaded. You might not know the paper process. It might not be fast enough in kind of the urgency that needs to be driven to get there. And then, pipeline, obviously don't count it. We do call out deals in here that are excluded for risk. It doesn't mean it's not a good deal. It means it's a risky deal that I don't feel comfortable forecasting. The leaders don't feel comfortable putting forwards. It doesn't mean it's not a deal. It means it may have some really funny T's and C's. It may be dicey. Like there might be a rebound client. There could be a lot of things, but I'm going to exclude that because it just doesn't have all the pieces to it. And it could have every piece of medic to it. But that's where that great manager comes in, who's in that deal down and dirty and goes, I don't really want to go to put this one in the bank. I had to hold this one over here as credit and see if we need it. We're also assuming that the reps, and this number changes, right? So this number, we're kind of end of the month, so you're seeing 50% now, but this number changes. This average rep assumption, we're assuming the reps are going to produce. Obviously, that number goes down as the month goes on, but we're assuming the reps are going to produce. The other thing I'll call out here is, it shows that 120% to target, which is fantastic. But what it's also taking into account is remember that key deal call I was talking about, those pull throughs. I highlight all that, right? So I let everybody know, like, here's where they're at, But hey, we moved the value. We pulled it in April. It's no longer a pull forward deal. It's an actual month deal. So I can't have the number double count, or I'll be way off. So we removed the value. Good. Hey, there's a meeting on the 14th. Fantastic. What's happening? As you come through this deck and you come through this Excel, I can quickly look at this and go, and I've seen this when this whole thing is orange and it makes you want to throw up a little bit in your mouth. Yeah. Why I have heartburn on a regular basis. But I've seen this when it was orange, but I can get on the leadership call and go, hey, what gives? Like what happened? The other thing that we do is we trend this data. I can tell you what's pushed. I can tell you what's regressed. I can tell you what's moved in. I can tell you what's moved out. It matters. But by taking that rigor that you talk about, and you can see on the bottom how frequently we're doing these things. We're doing these constantly. And we can tell you the type of deal it is. Maybe we're seeing a big thing in upsell. We're seeing a lot of attachment of a certain product. Maybe we crush it in cross sell. We're selling back to the base, doing a great job. Awesome. Let me go look at the product set that we're doing and figure out what people don't have that product that fit that ICP, and let's go get them. So you'll see kind of the key deals. So notice it says key deals in green. We highlight the key deals out even further and let you know kind of where they are. And again, you can see these are huge swings for us. 106, 106. These are big, big, big deals that really make a difference. But this is the process for me. This is the rigor for me that follows the process. So for me, this is the rigor. This keeps me honest. This keeps the leaders honest. The reps don't necessarily stay in this, but this is a detailed look. But I will never get, I can get a call right now from our CEO and he can say, what are you forecasting? And I can pull up this document. I can tell him what I'm forecasting, what deals I'm forecasting, and why. CEOs don't love to hear that you're excluding deals, but I can say they're excluded for risk. And here's why. This is part of why we do it. These assumptions are what make us successful. I believe, and again, this is through the leaders, we believe that these are the best assumptions based on trend data, based on close percentages that will get us the most predictable revenue at any given time. The leaders that I have now predict this revenue within 1% up or down.
I love that. One thing that if you're not watching and take a look at the spreadsheet or the screenshot of the spreadsheet, one thing I love that if you do this in Salesforce, it's challenging to do. And there's a reason this is in a sheet. The beginning of the month status, last week's status, this week's status. That when you're doing these calls, that context, if you haven't been in a leadership role, is super important because it is impossible. If you got 30, 50, 100 deals that you're looking at, you can't remember what it was last week or what it was at the beginning of the month. You could probably remember for some of them, but you definitely can't remember all. And to be able to quickly go, okay, yellow, orange, green, okay, where did it start? Where did it come from? Like that deal that was pushed, but now is green. To be able to see that connection is tremendously valuable.
But let's even look at a couple of these. Let's dig deeper into that. So beginning of the month, I see it's an orange, right? So we come up to the top here and you look at orange. That's a pipeline deal. It's a pipeline deal, right? So when I look at the orange, a pipeline deal, it's got a 0% assumption. Last week's status, it's in green. This week's status, it's in green, right? So I took it from a 0% assumption to an 80% assumption, right? Let's go down even further. Look at a yellow deal, right? Yellow deal, 106K, big deal, right? Went to win room. We did a number of things. We really, worked around it as a team to make sure it makes sense. So it comes in as yellow, best case. It's at a 60%, right? But by knowing that, I can look at it now and go, all right, we moved it to green. It's still in green this week. Now it's at 80%. To quickly, like you said, be able to look at that and go, okay, how's it trending? But it works both ways. What if it's a green deal in the beginning of the month and at the end of the month, I'm excluded it for risk? Again, you start asking yourself, is that a deal? Can I get it next month? Why is it risky? What am I missing? You can really double click into this quickly, especially at the senior leader level, to be predictable. But again, this sheet right here, and with the leaders that I have who are truly maniacal geniuses, they're within 1% of their call month over month, up or down. Best in the business. Is it always the number you want to see? No. But I'd rather go to a CEO and say, this is what we're going to bring in. I understand it's not where we need to be, and here's how we're working to overcome that. Here's our plan. Then say, here's $2 million. I'm only going to bring in 700,000 of it. Because you sit in that seat, Collin, you brought up in the beginning. As soon as that month closes, you're looking for you got to find that money somewhere else. And at some point, that's people. So again, it goes back to the kind of my philosophy is I take it as my responsibility to make sure that they can take care of their families because they're part of our team. Incredible.
I could get lost in the sheet and just keep asking questions, but at some point, people are going to say, hey, Collin, this episode's gone on long enough. I really appreciate you coming on. What have we missed? Is there anything that we've missed that any questions I haven't asked before we kind of wrap it up today?
The thing I would say kind of net from this, if I were to take anything away from it, you have to get people to buy into your process, your rigor, whatever that thing is. But then you have to give them the system to do it and give yourself the system and the process to be able to articulate it. That comes back to that communication up, right? I got to be able to communicate it up, but the reps have to communicate it up as well. So the process goes both directions, and without buy-in on both sides, it doesn't work. So, the net for me on this, if I were to say, I wish I would have learned it sooner, get your people to buy into your philosophy, and then find a way to hold them accountable to the philosophy that they have chosen to buy into.
Love that. Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on the show. If people are looking to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, I'm happy to, please check out my LinkedIn. Feel free to follow and if you want to send me a message, I'm happy to dive deeper into this. And I hope to learn from the rest of you.
Love it. I'll throw a link to your LinkedIn in the show notes. Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks, Collin. I appreciate you having me.
No problem. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you all next week.